what is the franchise owner? Who are you guys ideally targeting as franchise owners?
Franchise owners' responsibility is going out and leveraging both their network.
Today's guest is Martin and Tammy Romage from Satellite Teams Global. Satellite Teams is a global operating platform that helps businesses build and scale teams through full-time international talent without the complexity of managing recruiting, HR, payroll, benefits, or compliance across multiple countries. For franchise owners, it's a relationship-driven built around recurring revenue, helping companies solve one of their biggest challenges, finding and scaling great talent. Today, we'll discuss the future of the workforce, the global workforce expansion, and why this model is attracting executives, consultants, and entrepreneurs looking to build enterprise value. So welcome you both. Looking forward to talking more about Satellite Teams. Thanks for joining me.
Appreciate you having us.
Thank you. Excited.
Yeah. So if you both could just give a little background about yourselves and how you got into this model and how you developed it and a little bit background about the actual business model itself.
Tim, you want to kick it off with an intro?
Absolutely. Well, Laura, thank you very much. We're excited to be here. At Satellite Teams, we are an emerging brand, but our infrastructure is not. And I'm Chief Growth Officer for Satellite Teams. So I have the privilege of working with our owners from the very beginning, almost from day zero in their first 30, 60, 90 days. And simply I work alongside of them and helping them really understand the model and actually building inside the model itself. And for me, I've spent over 2 decades in scaling and building people-driven organizations, rooted in recurring revenue and long-term retention. And I've personally built and led teams of more than 2,000 people and trained thousands through structured systems and performance frameworks, but especially working with and building within relationships, because that is the most important part. And that's actually what our owners do, is drive relationships and workforce expansion. So again, I have the privilege of getting to work alongside of them, and we have huge goals for our owners, and I get to work alongside as they're, moving towards those goals.
Excellent. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Tammy. My name's Matt. I'm a sort of a serial entrepreneur, deal junkie, involved in a variety of different things. Satellite Teams is actually sort of never meant to be a business, certainly never meant to be a franchise. Satellite Teams was started as a portfolio. It's part of my portfolio of other companies. So I've got 4 other businesses in the portfolio today. We've got a subprime auto finance business. We have a technology business that reports rental payments to the credit bureaus. And we have a business that sort of does really specialized property management. And so the one business, the technology business, was, we were sort of getting it off the ground and having some just challenges with our tech team onshore. And, they wanted sort of more money to do less work, and were more concerned with Pizza Fridays and happy hour Thursdays than pushing out code. And I said, let's try and figure out if there's a way to sort of solve this internationally. And so I went to what's called a business process outsourcer first to start with, and tried that. And it was an utter disastrous failure. I've never lost so much money so fast. That didn't work. Great. Learned from that one. I went and tried freelancers, leveraging sort of Fiverr and Upwork and some of these other sort of global platforms, and finally just got frustrated and said, I just want to build an office offshore and have people show up and work and view this as a long-term employment and long-term team members, with the view of that they're going to retire with me. So where's that model out there? And I realized very quickly, there wasn't anything out there. And so just as part of the origin story, I'm part of an organization called YPO, which stands for Young Presidents Organization. It's essentially a bunch of CEOs and business owners. We meet every month. And so the first month I told my sort of smaller group, which is called my forum, that I was going to take my tech team offshore, and they thought I was crazy. And then the second month, I said, it's working really well. I'm going to move customer success over as well. And then by the third month, they thought I needed to be committed to the mental asylum when I said, I'm going to move finance over there. They said, you got to be kidding me. You're going to move all your money offshore? You're nuts. But by the fourth month, when I wasn't, didn't lose all my money and it was all working still really well, they all came to me and said, hey, can you help us figure out how to do this too in our business? And so my co-founder kicked me onto the table and said, clearly there's a business model here. So fast forward to today, we're in a completely industry agnostic, position agnostic. We hire, there's smart people all around the planet. When you boil down what it is we do, there's sort of 2 core functions. Function number 1 is we act as an international recruiter. So think about no different than a Robert Half, than a K-Force, anything like that, a professional recruiter, right? We just do it offshore. There's smart people all around the planet. U.S. companies and Canadian companies just don't know how to access them. So we do that. Once a company finds a rock star in whatever country, they're definitely not set up to sort of manage payroll, issue payroll, deal with benefits, reporting, anything along those lines. So think about it as like an international ADP or Paychecks. So that's sort of where we are, and that's sort of the solutions that we provide. Again, sort of position agnostic, industry agnostic. We're doing everything from helping, the last movie trailer or a poster you saw that came out of Hollywood, we probably had a satellite team member working on it. Last time we went to Fogo de Chao, like we were doing stuff for them. I mean, it's sort of like it's everywhere from making movies to, Brazilian steakhouses to the biggest law firms in the country and everything in between. So, the solution works extremely well. And that's sort of where we led to. Franchising was really around realizing this is really a relational business. And so we already spent millions and millions of dollars building out this very robust infrastructure from a legal compliance technology perspective. But the way we're able to allow others to leverage that through a franchising type structure.
So how does that work in terms of then, what is the franchise owner doing? Let's say somebody buys in the US, and what are they doing here? Who are they targeting as customers? And then who's doing the recruiting, or how does that all, how are they, how are they identifying, hey, I've got a solution for you to find whatever type of workers you have? How does that work?
This is totally a relationship business. And what I would say is, I always say the biggest problem that we have is that literally every company in the US, Canada, UK, anywhere in sort of the English speaking world is a prospective customer, right? And so our challenge is almost that the buffet is too big, that we're sort of focusing folks on where to get started, right? Because literally every company in the country needs accounting, they need marketing, they need some level of sales. There's a variety of dynamics that every sort of business uses. And needs. And so, yes, a franchise owner's responsibility is going out and leveraging both their network and then leveraging, again, Tammy will get more into it as well. I mean, she does a fantastic job of sort of teaching intentional relationship building in order to go out and identify who are those ideal customer profile, right? Like who's your ICP? Like, let's figure out who that is. Who's in your network? And I always say, like, 10 times more people than what you originally think you know. You just got to sort of sit there and pull it out. Your network's much larger than most people would realize it is. But then their real responsibility is going out and helping identify where those opportunities are, right? So it's sort of asking questions and really, investing in getting to understand and partner with a client's business and say, like, where are you trying to go? Where are those pain points? Where are you having challenges finding resources, right? I mean, there's, lots of different places where organizations need some assistance in finding really good talent. I mean, I'll use a couple of ones, for example, the public accounting sector, there's a massive labor shortage where far more people are retiring every year than getting into it. You run into the same thing in the appraisal industry, right? Far more people are sort of aging out. So it's not just a function of how do you find folks that, are able to work inside of organizations. Sometimes there's huge like talent vacuums. And so you're able to help go facilitate that as well. So the franchisee's really responsibility is go out, meet people, identify needs. All the franchisees have a single employee that is their recruiter. That recruiter sits offshore and does the recruiting on their behalf. And so you'll have a recruiter and they can sort of do it in lots of different countries. You may have a recruiter in the Philippines, but they're still recruiting people in Colombia or Mexico or wherever else, and vice versa.
Their dedicated recruiter, or how does that work?
The idea is you want the recruiter to build relationships with the clients directly. I mean, our corporate store grows every month and I'm not involved in that whatsoever. I mean, our clients just know to call our recruitment team. They've got our dedicated recruiter. They just know, hey, we need an associate producer with this level of skill set, this experience level. They don't come through me. They just go directly to the recruiters. So the idea is you build that type of sort of organizational depth, if you will, with the client directly.
So I guess when most people think of global staffing, they're thinking of outsourcing per se, but how would you compare that to the traditional outsourcing, the technology, the like accounting I never would have thought of, but how would you compare that for someone to think about this in simplistic terms on how everyday users are hiring?
So when you think of outsourcing, We do something very, very different. So we're offshoring, not outsourcing. And the big unique difference is around who owns the sort of the business result at the end, right? So you go to a bit like a business process outsourcer or a BPO, and what they'll say is, okay, for X dollars, we're going to create you Y number of widgets per week, per day, whatever it is, right? So how they deliver that is sort of, it's not up to you. Their job is to sort of effectuate that result. Whereas you don't, as an organization, if you hire a BPO, you have zero influence on who they specifically hire, right? As long as they're delivering that result, then it's sort of, that's how the relationship works. The people that are working on your account literally view you as an account, right? They are not viewing you as, I'm going to work for this organization and in 20 years, I'm going to be promoted 3 times, because their job is to be promoted inside the business process outsourcing firm, right? So generally folks start as sort of at the very junior level, then they work themselves up to a senior, then they're a supervisor, right? They grow inside of the BPO, not growing inside the organization. So, I mean, the challenges that come with it is, you just have business process outsourcers in general, like they have generally fixed revenue models. And so the way that they expand margin is by trying to compress costs. And so they try and put systems, technology, et cetera, in place, and then be able to hire the cheapest person they possibly can to fulfill the human related needs. What this leads to is a mass level of turnover inside BPOs. And so while every single one of them will tell you, well, you don't have to pay for the training. I mean, the person that was really good that you had been working with for a year, all of a sudden walks out the door. The person that shows up the next day does not have the same expertise, knowledge, know-how, et cetera, right? So you still end up paying for it. So again, it's a very different dynamic. BPOs are good if you have sort of non-core functions that you just, and are very sort of definable. And so, when you think about BPOs, think about the last time you called Verizon and said, the person answered and they said, hey, my name is John. And his name is not John. It's really a function of they're tracking certain KPIs where they're saying, how do I get a first call resolution? How do I get you off the phone as fast as possible? Right? There's KPIs in place for them just to be able to get you done and get you can get a good satisfaction survey. But none of those people will ever work for Verizon. None of those people are ever looking to grow inside of Verizon. They don't care about your company's culture. They don't care about the long-term success of Verizon. They're just there to check the box. Our model is wildly different. It's like you're going to find a rock star that you're looking to have retire with you, grow inside your organization. And when they wake up, they don't work for ABC BPO. They work for your company. Right? When you're having an all hands meeting, when you're having they're participating. And the more people lean into this this is my satellite team somewhere else, the more they really lean into that, the more it works. And so we're very different from an offshore to outsourcing type function.
And what drove this? What drove this? I mean, other than you mentioned some of the challenges you were facing, but what typically is driving that someone says, okay, yeah, I'd rather hire offshore? Is the support that you guys are doing for a franchise owner to help?
I think there's a couple of reasons. One, there's a talent vacuum in whatever sort of piece of the industry that is. Again, we're sort of position agnostic, again, industry agnostic. So you've got a variety of different people that just don't have talent available. I'll give another example. We've got a very high-end furniture designer manufacturer and 2D, 3D CAD artists, designers. There's just not a lot of them. So we can find in the US and they're really expensive. So it's hard for a small, emerging furniture company to be able to compete because they just don't have they're not set up. They can't hire these super expensive people.
Gotcha.
Well, they can hire them through us and we can help facilitate that. So literally we can launch businesses that would never be able to be launched because of satellite teams. So it's that's sort of one piece, right? So you've got your talent shortage or just a really high cost of whatever it may be that's there. The other piece is, obviously in 99% of businesses, payroll is the largest expense in the P&L, right? So it's a function of if you're going to continue to grow your organization, there's what's called your general administrative expenditures as an example, which means it doesn't create revenue, right? So this is your accounting functions, things like that, right? As you continue to grow, why leverage? We've got a property management company in New York City as an example. They were paying $90,000 a year before taxes, benefits, real estate, parking, theater, blah, 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 for property level accountants. Like that's hard to do. And so it costs you all in 120 grand a year. So as they continue to grow, they've got expertise in house, but when they need to hire more people, they can find people that are just as skilled for 30 grand a year, all in. That's the tax, benefits, insurance, everything else through us. Right. So it's like it allows you to continue to expand your team, and it's a dramatic savings impact. So we're not here to like replace American jobs. We're here to create room for American companies, Canadian companies, et cetera, to be able to continue to grow and invest in things that actually make sense. Getting like Microsoft did not become $1 trillion company because it was really good at its accounts payable process, right? Like it's not strategic. Who cares? Find the easiest, cheapest way to do that, right? Invest with that extra room in your budget, invest it in the stuff that makes you profitable, that it makes you, what your special sauce is.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yes. And some of our trust points that go along with that is, and I always like to bring this up because 85% of our clients had never offshored before, and it's not because they didn't want to, they just didn't know how to. And then of course we simplify the process. And another trust point is we have 98% position retention, which is really important. And we are able to outsource in over 100 countries. So those are just some of our trust points. And of course, vetting those incredible satellite team members. Matt has always said, hire the perfect employee on the other side of the world as if they were sitting next to you. And that's kind of like our mission with that.
And then are there challenges finding people that are good at that remote? So you're talking to a business owner and their fear of, managing some of your remote. They may not even be good at it, close by. Are there tips that you help with that? Or
what I think was great was we all had to get kind of good at it. Like COVID forced us all to figure it out. Like good job to humanity. We figured out how to actually, work from home in 48 hours, like the entire planet. Right. So, I think a lot of the stigma or challenges associated with that have gone away. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you're a bad manager, you're a bad manager. It doesn't matter if the person sitting next to you or 8,000 miles away. It is the same thing. Right. So, I think what ends up happening, which is, I always talk to our owners about is, your clients generally through working with us will get better in their internal processes as well, right? Things like, a lot of companies are very lazy with job descriptions, right? And so there's a saying by Zig Ziglar that says you can aim at nothing and hit it with amazing accuracy, right? You see this happen a lot. And so you get people just go to ChatGPT, write me a job description for blah, whatever it is. Right. And they haven't thought through, okay, who does this person report to? What are the key performance indicators? What are the success areas? What does success look like in this position? Whether or not this position is bonused or not, how would the bonus plan be structured? Right. Because at the end of the day, compensation drives behavior, right? Or incentives drive behavior, right? So it's sort of like thinking through this stuff, which we find a lot of our clients when they first start working with us aren't used to going to that level of detail. And so by going through this process, it creates alignment. So again, if you're a terrible manager, you're still a terrible manager. We're just going to make you less terrible because we're going to have defined a lot of this stuff up front, right? Sort of forced you to go through it, which makes it work well.
Gotcha. So Tammy, when you're bringing on a new franchise owner, because you said you're industry agnostic, but how do you help someone center in on who to contact and how to do that?
Well, basically kind of defining like we do with our clients, the KPIs on the front end, even with our owners. And one of the things, because all of our owners are very different and they're in all different industries. And, my background is like health and beauty industry. But one of our owners, Sherry, is actually in the health industry, leads 13 laboratories. I would never understand her industry. So we do help them define their relationships within those verticals and those industries from the beginning. And part of what they do every day is really just building relationships and networking. They're going to be meeting other business owners and leaders, conducting discovery conversations, identifying the roles and opportunities within those discovery conversations, following up with prospects and clients, developing referral or even affiliate programs. So as Matt had said at the beginning, one person could lead you to 100 and you know far more people than you know. But most of our owners have already had 1, 2, or 3 decades of relationships. So they're bringing those relationships to the table already. We just help them define where they are. And we do that even as soon as our training program is in the next best step. So we start that from the very beginning, kind of in day zero of helping them define that. So by the time they get to what we call immersion, which I'm in Puerto Rico right now, getting ready to have our 4-day in-depth education and training for our owners. So by the time they get here, we already understand their vertical. And my job is to help wrap the infrastructure around them, kind of like a moat. So not only do they have incredible operations and our tech, which is a robust tech, we also have amazing marketing. And then, of course, our owner revenue engine. And so, just really diving into owner economics, vertical capital mapping, value mapping, and really inserting them with inside the model, not just training by theory, but walking through their relationships so it's tangible. And we want to get them revenue positive as soon as possible. So it's not a collection of disconnected sessions, right? It's a full operating model.
Interesting. So when someone is like, who are you guys ideally targeting as franchise owners? Who would, obviously people with a lot of connections, but what does that look like? And what is that conversation that you're having with them typically?
First and foremost, fire and desire. I mean, it's before anything else. You have to have the fire and the desire. If this is something you're looking to replace a $50,000, $60,000 or $100,000 year job with, like, we're not interested. Like, it's not the right fit.
Right.
Like, we're here to take over the world. Like, that's what we're looking for people that have the fire and desire. Next piece is intellectual curiosity, right? Like, we work with so many different industries, again, placing so many different positions. You need to be able to walk in and be genuinely curious about how a prospective client's business works and how you can create value for them, right? So that's sort of piece number 2. And then 3, people that are just naturally used to just giving value 100% of the time wherever they go. Like, just give it. Like, give, create value. If you have those 3 core things, then obviously there's integrity and things along those lines. And relationships really, really help, by all means. I mean, again, YPO was extremely helpful for me to get this going. I think we've done a really good job of figuring out how to sort of systematize the relational sort of development, if you will. So you don't necessarily need to come in with huge amounts of context. It helps tremendously if you do. If you're viewed credibly by a business community of whatever community that is. I mean, we've got, as Tammy mentioned, we've got a healthcare executive. We've got somebody that was one of our owners. He just got his second bite of the apple out of a private equity backed golf apparel brand. We have another person who's the CEO of an investment bank. We've got another person who's the former CEO of a commercial bank in Canada. Another woman who had 8 magazines reporting up to her in media, right? So like, everybody's coming from different backgrounds, but they all share a lot of those same sort of fire and desire and intellectual curiosity to give value everywhere. I mean, that's really what we're looking for.
And are they doing this full time?
This, yes. I mean, short answer, yes. I mean, there is, as an example, the person that runs the investment bank still runs the investment bank because it drives a huge amount of opportunity as well, right? So they're doing it full time, but that may not be saying that they're not doing 2 or 3 things full time as well.
How does the territory, or is there such a thing as a territory in this model? Or
I can't wait to have the day where we have 5 owners that live right next to each other. And they'll never touch. They'll never overlap. It's a fascinating, you get people that, I mean, again, I always tell our owners, like, I could try my best for the rest of my life to build your relationships. I'll never get there, ever, right? To your level. So we have no geographic territories whatsoever. We do have a mechanism in place to protect relationships, but it's limited. It's limited in that they have to be real relationships. They have to be real deals. Like, it's not like you get to go and say, I want everybody on LinkedIn as my protected person. No. Right. Like, so there's a mechanism in place to make sure. We've actually never had anybody come close to crossing over yet. I'm sure at some point, 10 years down the road, we will, but we'll cross that bridge when we do.
Gotcha. And how many owners are you at now?
8 today.
Fantastic.
So we started in January, so we're getting going. We've got a very robust pipeline.
That's very good. Starting in January. Where do you see this industry or this market growing to?
So, I think Tammy always says a good thing. I mean, it's sort of the AI plus offshore equals the new operating model. I mean, it really does. So, again, we're not here to say, if you're a company that in X, Y, or Z is your special sauce, this is what you're really good at. Like, get really good at that. Like, build a solid, cohesive team to do that. That's fine. But all the stuff around it to support that effort, like, there's probably not very little reason that you need to sort of do that in a traditional fashion. So where is this going? I mean, we're growing all over the place. I mean, we're taking over the English speaking world. So we entered into Canada about 2 weeks ago. We entered into the UK 2 weeks ago as well. New Zealand about a month ago. Australia will be in about 2 months, and Ireland happened last week. So we'll first sort of move into the total English speaking world and be able to sell franchises there, and then we'll move into the French speaking world as well. I mean, you look at trying to hire someone in Paris. I mean, you could like the person could come in and tell you they hate you and they never want to see you again, and you still can't fire them. I mean, like it's crazy. Like it's really, really complicated to work. So things like that, you can hire in Senegal and Ivory Coast and things like that where they speak French. So there's a massive. The world can be much smaller than it is historically been, and I think we've done a good job of trying to figure out how to do it effectively. I have a lot of gray hair. I've lost a lot of hair figuring it out, lots of bumps and bruises, but I think we've got a pretty good model at this point to help companies figure it out. So
yes,
it's fascinating. I'm still trying to wrap my head around all the different opportunities and how to narrow that down for somebody, like for a candidate, to really describe to them where they can leverage it. But I'm thinking in past candidates that I didn't place that they could have been good options for this, But I do think it takes an interesting person, and so you typically are only going to need one recruiter, or do you grow with needing more?
It's a great problem to have. I mean, our models are basically tied to a number of requisitions, which leads to placement. You basically need one recruiter for standard kind of placements per 10 placements in a month. So, I mean, it's a great problem to have. You have a client that comes in and says, I need to hire 200 people over the course of the next month. Okay, you're going to need more recruiters, right? It's just a capacity dynamic. But to get going, I mean, to build a $4 million business in your first year, which is extremely achievable. That's our target, is we want to get you to $4 million in run rate in your first year. You need one recruiter to do it. And it's like our technology platform, which you get as an owner, your cell phone, and your recruiter. And you can go build a very sizable business doing that.
And just building your relationships, like the different associations or conferences, maybe with inside your vertical or others that you have interest in. That's, wine, dine, take your clients out for dinner. Those would be your expenses.
Okay, gotcha. What misconceptions do people typically have in this, or could they, with your model?
Could they? Some people think we're like out to they get very sensitive around like American jobs, and that's by no stretch of imagination what we're here to do. We're here to, again, create opportunities to allow companies to grow. Again, it's just sort of saying, okay, like what are the core functions? Let's invest there rather than in some of this non-core stuff. So I think that's one thing that some people have the misconception around it. The other thing is around data privacy and security. We have everything from, again, healthcare companies to law firms. And again, the company that makes 98% of Hollywood's, movie trailers and posters, like, don't get me wrong, we built them a mini Fort Knox in Manila to support that effort. And they've got it locked down because obviously that footage leaking would be just disastrous, right? So you can't have that happen. So, we've got the ability to sort of really fulfill that piece of it quite a bit as well. And then I think the other biggest misconception, which is fascinating to me, but you see it all the time, especially with clients, like there are super intelligent people all over the planet and like really hardworking, driven people. And when clients first see the price points of what it would cost them to employ some of these rock stars, they're just shocked. It's a great shock, right? Because we make it tangible all of a sudden. When they're like, hold on a second, you can get a CPA lawyer for what? Like, you got to be kidding me. This person's amazing. Like, they don't believe it and then, we have one client that always sits there and says, Matt, this is like crack. You just try it once and you can't get enough. Like, and sure enough, I think they have 50 or 60 people with us now, right? Then it started with one.
Wow.
So, it continues to grow and evolve. So, there's lots of, sometimes there's misconceptions. It's just a conversation or proving it to them.
Gotcha. We talked about your ideal profile. Anything else that you would think would be important for people to consider as they think about doing something new type of business model? This is, again, I would say very different than a lot that we work with. And I think very interesting for the right person.
You're not looking at a chicken franchise in us, right? Like it's a different, it's different deal. You have to be, obviously having some bit of sales or consultative sort of background is helpful, right? Because again, you're asking organizations to make paradigm shifts, right? And so the paradigm shift and I'm always very upfront with clients, which is my job is to change your paradigm from what can I offshore to what can't I, right? So you've got to be able to hold people's hand, walk them through that, have that consultative dynamic, but also the sales to understand that you're creating real value for them, right? So having that type of personality really helps. And then you really need to be able to, be engaging with people is really important also. You need to be comfortable around people. This is a people business. It's sales. I mean, sales, at the end of the day, sales is sales, right? It's a contact sport. Spending time and being genuinely curious about how to create value for other people. You do that enough, you'll win every day of the week.
Fantastic. Tam, anything else you'd like to share?
It's what I love about Satellite Teams. It is a relationship driven business, but it's not only the relationships that our owners have with the clients, but it's the relationships they have with each other as well. And I often think about this mastermind table of all of our owners. And when they're all at that table, it's really, really incredible. I don't know if you've ever read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, but it talks about this mastermind table and how you come to the table and leverage everybody's experience so everybody grows and expands. And that's really what our owners are doing. So for somebody that wants to bring their relationships, their gifts, their talents that they have spent years in building to something that could be reoccurring revenue, that could change their life, but to also be able to take all of that knowledge and sit at this table of all of these other incredibly successful people. I think for me is I think that's one of the best parts of it is learning from each other, growing together, and getting to kind of be in the middle of it all and to be able to work with these amazing owners.
No, that's incredibly valuable. How are your franchise owners collaborating that way?
Yeah. We had a collaboration meeting this morning. We do that every single week. We do.
Oh, wonderful.
Program. Yes. So, our education and I call it more of masterminding with all of these other very highly successful owners. It's going to be very different in their first 10 placements or being brand new in their first 10 placements, 25, 50, or 100. Our goal is to get them to 100 placements and a $4 million rate in their first year. But then going to 200 placements. So it's always ongoing, right? The mastermind continues just in a different way. Your conversations change. So the support that we have for our owners on day zero, as they're emerging as a brand new owner, from our confirmation all the way to them attending our immersion, which is always a lot of fun in some incredible places and spaces, by the way. I'm in Puerto Rico right now and we'll be in Dublin coming up. So, for those owners that want to have fun, really make an impact, add value, and be able to change lives and lives around the world, then this would be absolutely for them.
Fantastic. Any other parting words you have, Matt?
No, I don't. Well, I'll piggyback on Tammy. I love being the dumbest guy in the room, right? That I'm in the right room. And, when you're on the phone with our owners, like, even this morning, just as Tammy mentioned, some just wicked smart people. And I think it's fascinating being able to look at one problem and have, 8 really smart people sitting there trying to solve it with you.
Yeah.
That's what's fun. I think that's the other thing is it's, yes, we're a system, we're a brand. We've got, I think it figured out pretty well, but I know we learn something new from our owners every day and are quick to adopt it. We're not stuck in our ways by any stretch of the imagination. The saying that I hate the most that just irks me is this is the way we've always done it. Like essentially you'll get shot around here if somebody ever says something like that. So we're always trying to learn and evolve and change. And again, just the room, the people that are in the room it's really impactful, really powerful. So
that is fantastic. That's true value. That's for sure.
Yeah, and we're hosting our owners this week, and so that's probably why you probably feel the passion from us, because we get to be with new owners this week, and we're super excited about that. Yeah, so it's a whole nother new table again.
Yes, wonderful. Well, thank you again for your time. Look forward to continuing to learn more and watch you guys grow. And no doubt you'll be growing successfully this year.
Thanks so much, Laura.
Sure.
Appreciate it.